All right, welcome to the giant fourth quarter final posting video. This video will be pretty big. It'll cover all the aspects of posting a rolling gradebook, a traditional gradebook, adding your final exam or projects into different places, and the various checks. So this video will be divided up into sections, and you might notice along the timeline, it looks like a dashed line. And so you can put your mouse over the different parts of this video and just watch the things that are relevant to you. Right now I am in a fourth quarter. This is a rolling gradebook. There are 17 total assignments in this particular gradebook. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your final exam / projects for the year. As you know, finals can only count for a student. They cannot count against them in terms of lowering their grade. And so the only way to really ensure that this happens is to have a backup copy of your grades. So provided that your term weighting is set up correctly, see that section of the video that I'll talk about posting in a little bit. You're going to want to make sure that you hit up the final mark section of your gradebook. So this is the current final averages for my demo class over here. You may notice that there's an F. Now, when there's an F in student grades, you don't have to do anything. The county is going to automatically change that to a no mark. And you might notice also that there are D's here. So again, at the high school level, students can select up to 2 classes and change either a D or a C into a P or a passing grade, and then just move on. And so this is also something that does not have to be have any action taken by you. This will happen automatically by student services by having the parents and the students submit a form with them, and they'll do all the processing. So the no marks and the passings are automatic. So in order to make a record of this, the easiest way to do this is to go to reports and go to where it says print gradebook. You should be able to run report for all classes. I think they fixed that bug finally. So you can do this, and you're going to go to run report. This will then give you a PDF of your classes. In this case, I only have one class in my demo section, so that's all it's going to print. And you want to download this using the little down arrow and save it in a safe place that you can refer to later. If you're using the final exam section to make your final, you're going to have to create a new assignment. So in this case, we're going to call it final project. We have to assign it to something that counts in your gradebook. So summative counts in mine. You're going to set the points. Now, if you're using the final project section, the points and stuff don't matter as much because it is 10% of the grade no matter what because of the weights that you set. In this example, the weight is 10% for a final score. And you do have to make sure you set the grading period so that this counts in fourth quarter final exam, and go to save. So here it is here, right? So for example, if I go back to final mark, I see that Tristan has a B-. So let's say that when I'm grading, that Tristan gets, let's say, a 95, right? But Ashley doesn't do so well. Ashley had an A-, but now has like a 68. And you go to save changes. So now going back and referring to what they have now, so Tristan's at a B- still, which is fine, but Ashley dropped to a B+. So we have to go back to our final exam, and instead of it being a 68, we're actually just going to do an EX, which is what's called exclude, and that's a county-wide code that will exclude that from grading and means it won't count. So now she gets an NA in the grade, which is fine. It's excluded. So you'd go through here, and then you'd have to go basically entering your final scores and then comparing the new final mark with the printout on the PDF, and then go back and exclude scores where the the grade got lower. Let's say that you decide to enter your final as a fourth quarter assignment. So that's the other way that you can do this. So that's fine. You're going to go back to fourth quarter and you're going to go to new, and the process is largely the same, right? So you're going to call it your final exam, your project. You have to make sure that you assign it a weight. Now, in order to make the calculations, you do have to take into account the number of points here. You want to make sure that you calculate the number of points that your final is worth actually makes it 10% of the overall grade. So you're going to have to do some numbers and calculating on how many points of a particular category exist, and that will then guide how many points this should be worth. So for example, I think everything in this grade book is worth 1 point. So if I set this to be worth about 4 points, that would make this worth even more than what a typical assignment would be. So I'm going to go to save. Oh, I'm also going to make sure that under grading periods, that's the one thing you do want to double check, that is only a fourth quarter assignment. Okay, so here's my final, and then right now, as you can see. Now, the good news about this being a rolling grade book and entering in fourth quarter is that if Ashley again gets that D, so she still gets that 68, I can go and see, right? So it still drops to a B+. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm actually gonna use a keyboard shortcut, EX. So EX is a county-wide exclude. And what that will do is now you get back to that A-, right? So let's say Tristan did very well. Tristan got a 95. Save changes. Right, so you can see that Tristan's grade went up a little bit from 81 to 82. Right, so Rainey is at an 80.4. Let's say Rainey gets like a 95 on the project or the final. Right, so Rainey now goes up to an 82. So again, you do have to make sure that the points that you set are, when you calculate it, make a big enough difference. So Devin, we're just going to say Devin, let's say. Right, so we got Jung and Devin. Now Devin dropped to a C+, which we know we can't have. So again, we're going to go back and we're going to go exclude. All right. So, and again, you really just have to go and take a look at what was the previous grade before versus what's the current grade. If you're in a traditional grade book, you're going to have to refer more to your paper printout because you need the final calculations that offers you when you're averaging your four quarters in there. And so that is really it when it comes to your final project and how to enter them, and making sure that you have a backup copy of your printed gradebook. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go through the posting process. We're going to talk about that. So again, I've got my gradebook, and this is a rolling gradebook. So I'm going to go through the process for a rolling gradebook now. And there are a few checks that you want to make sure you do. First, you want to make sure that the term weighting is set up properly. So you want to make sure your final mark is set up so that your fourth quarter weight is 90%, and then maybe your final is 10. Or if you do put your final marks, your final project marks in its fourth quarter grade, you could set this to be 100% and nothing in this. The truth is, it doesn't matter. If SIS does not have anything in the final exam category, it will just use fourth quarter to calculate 100% of the weight. So you don't necessarily have to touch the term weighting per se. You just have to make sure that your fourth quarter is somewhere between the 90 to 100% of the final mark. Right? So you do want to make sure that none of the other quarters count towards the grade, and that this is either 90 or 10 or 80 or 20 if you have that high of a final exam, or 100 and 0 if you're using fourth quarter for your final exams. So now we got the term weighting checked. That's great. We're now going to go and check assignments. So in assignments, I'm going to go to gradebooks and assignments. And what you're really looking for is to click to show all periods and click this grading periods tab. Right, so what you're looking for, like your final project is a fourth quarter final exam. We just did that before. That's great. That's fine. That's where it belongs. But that your other activities are counted, like these are first quarter assignments, and they count for first, second, third, and fourth quarter. And now I've got my second quarter assignments, and they're carried through third quarter assignments, and then finally fourth quarter assignments. The bottom line is that you want to make sure in a rolling gradebook that all of your assignments count in fourth quarter. So once you've checked that and you know that your assignments are good, you're going to go back to your gradebook and make sure that the grades themselves are fine, that anything that has been turned in, like there's some of these not handed in scores, that these are corrected if students turned in work. So all the scores are accurate and complete. So you do want to look for holes or things that aren't filled in. You want to double check, especially from second quarter on, that no score is below a 50%. So that's also another look for there. So again, once you feel as though these grades are fine, you're good to go. You're going to go to report card, and you're going to go to report card and students, or just click report card. And now you'll see that you have fourth quarter, you've got fourth quarter final exam and final mark. So in a rolling grade book, these should be pretty similar. Kind of going through the motions here. So if you need to edit anything, if you want to edit, let's say comments or anything in fourth quarter, you can do that. You can click on the little box. You can add the comments here. And go to save changes if you make any changes. Again, see my SIS page for what all these comments mean if you want to add any. I know it's fourth quarter, most of the times we don't, but again, it's up to you. When you're good, you're going to save changes and then go back to report card. One thing you'll notice about this particular class is that there are seniors and underclassmen in the same class. So when it comes time to post seniors, especially if you have classes that are mixed, while you want to uncheck, you really only want to post seniors the first time around. So here's a senior, and I'm going to check that box. Awesome. So I'm going to check that, and I'm going to go to post. Now it's going to give me an ugly error because there's nothing to post. That's whatever. Okay. And you'll see that it'll tell you, yes. In yours, it'll say it was last posted here. When it comes time to post underclassmen, if you have seniors in there, you do want to uncheck those seniors and not post them a second time. That can create discrepancies and other sorts of things. So once your senior grades are done and those are posted, since those are posted before underclassmen, you want to make sure that none of your seniors get reposted. So you want to uncheck them out of the screen, and you're going to go to post. And again, I get this ugly error because this is a training account, but you will get last results posted and the time and the date. So once you have that, you can also you're pretty much good to go. There's not much else to worry about as far as a rolling gradebook and finalizing things. So for a traditional gradebook, we're going to cut to that now. All right, so now we're going to talk about posting for a traditional gradebook, the things to check for, and how to get it done. So the first thing you'll notice is that this is a traditional gradebook, which means these assignments are just counting for fourth quarter, and these assignments just count for third quarter, etc. So you do want to double check your term weighting. So for this example, our final mark each quarter is worth 22.5%. So that gets you to 90%, and then your final exam is worth 10%. Now, if you do put your final exam or project and decide that's going to go into fourth quarter as opposed to this fourth quarter final exam category, that's fine. SIS will still count basically just your 4 quarters and use that in the final grade calculation. So you don't necessarily have to reweight and reallocate these. You do have to just be aware that, this is for your final exam. Okay, so now our term weighting looks pretty good. We're going to double check our assignments. So we're going to go to the assignment screen as I just did under gradebook. We're going to click show all periods. And then the page size we're going to change. So if you have, let's say 50 assignments in a year, you do want to see all of them, right? So you do want to click this drop down, see all of your assignments, and see grading periods. So in this case, I do have that final project from earlier, and that's counting in the fourth quarter final exams. That's fine. And now I've got my other assignments for first quarter only, and then these the second quarter, third quarter, and then finally fourth quarter. So each is counting in the appropriate place. So our assignments are looking good. The next spot check is the gradebook itself. So you do want to check to make sure that you don't have any missing scores or zeros or any scores that are below 50% here in the gradebook. So take a quick peek at this stuff. Let's say for a grade that was not handed in, if they went ahead and did it later, did you correct it? Are there things missing? That sort of stuff. So once you have checked that your grades look pretty good, you're going to go basically click on report card again. And this is going to get you to the final screen. And you'll notice you've got your fourth quarter grades on this column here. If you used fourth quarter final exam, those grades will show up here. And then you've got the final mark here. So this is their final overall grade right here. So just a note here that seniors, of course, their grades are due earlier than the underclassmen. So that's where this comes in handy, this post. If you have classes that are just seniors, then you're fine. If you have classes that are just underclassmen, you don't have to worry about this. If you have a mixed class, which is what this is, you do want to post your seniors only first. Right, so I'm just going to post for my senior here. So I'm going to select that to post, and I'm going to click post over here. So now that happened over, right? So it just says grade not found, fine. Now, after June 1st, after graduation, and now it's time to go and calculate the rest of the class, I'm going to uncheck my seniors, right? So if I have seniors in my class, let's say, going to poke through real quick, and I'm going to deselect them, etc., etc., etc. So I'm going to deselect them, and I'm going to then post my underclassmen later. One of the things that could happen is you could get a discrepancy if you post it. If somehow you change the grade, there are things that could happen where reposting a senior grade could create a little bit of a problem. So you want to make sure that your seniors are posted first, and then later on your underclassmen are posted with the seniors excluded and unchecked over here. Again, this is only an issue if you have seniors and underclassmen in the same class. For most of the time, you're fine. That's not really going to be a concern. Okay, so now my grades are posted. You'll get the verifications. You can double check. All of that will happen. And that's really going to be it as far as posting grades. So once this is done, you're pretty much good to go. It is always a good idea at the end of the year for yourself, if you wish, to generate a backup of your either final grades. So going back to your main gradebook, and then going to the final mark section and going to reports and printing the gradebook here and running for all classes. You can also go through the same thing for the different quarters. If you're a rolling gradebook, you actually only have to do this for fourth quarter. So if you do want a paper backup of your grades from this year, that's how you can generate that report. So aside from that, that's really it as far as grade changes and postings for this year. So I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for watching.